Hi all, welcome to the presentation for What Does My Community Need? And right here we have Ms. Kaylee Becker and Mr. Darian Skinner. And they're good friends of ours and from the Texas Department of State Health Services. And this project track is going to be a little more about what a need assessment is, how to conduct one, and how to present the results to improve your community and school setting. We hope you guys really enjoy it.
Thank you, Irma. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylee Becker, and I work for the Texas Department of State Health Services, which is the state health department. I'll be presenting this session, and Darian Skinner is also going to be presenting as well. Darian, do you want to say anything about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Darian Skinner. I also work at Texas Department of State Health Services in the Tobacco Prevention and Control Branch. I used to be a Say What Teen Ambassador, and so this is actually my 11th conference, so I'm very close and dear to the Say What program, and so I'm excited that you all are here, and I know that this can be a really great session, so yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Darian. So I just wanted invite everyone to share their camera if they're willing and comfortable doing that. I would love to see your faces and see how you're liking the presentation. It looks like you all are on mute right now. Just make sure that you stay on mute unless you have something to say, and then you can unmute yourself. So thanks again for attending. You know a little bit about Darian and I, but we do want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So we're going to start off with a little game. What I want you to do is take out a piece of paper and pen and write down your responses, or you can just remember them in your head, okay? So there's 4 questions. The first question is, would you rather meet Beyonce or Ariana Grande? Just pick one. Would you rather meet Beyonce or Ariana Grande? Question 2. Would you rather use Instagram or TikTok? Would you rather use Instagram or TikTok? Question 3. Would you rather visit every country in the world or go to space? That's a hard one. Would you rather visit every country in the world or go to space? And then our last question is, would you rather go skiing or surfing? Would you rather go skiing or surfing? So what I'm going to do now is launch a poll, and you can plug in your answers. I just want to see what the majority of the group thinks. All right, go ahead and plug in your responses. There's 4 questions. Looks like we're waiting on a few more. About 5 seconds left. All right, the answers are in. Let's see. It looks like the majority of you would like to meet Ariana Grande, use Instagram, which I find a little bit surprising. 100% of you would rather go to every country in the world over space. And 73% of you would rather go skiing over surfing. Oh, you can see the results right there. Cool. So now that we know a little bit about each other, we can jump into the presentation. So let me share my screen. Darian, can you see that?
Yes, you are good to go.
Cool. So throughout this conference, you all have learned a lot about the dangers of tobacco use and various prevention strategies that you can implement to make a difference in your community. And this session is a little bit different. So in this 2-hour block, we're going to teach you how to research your community to understand what's really causing tobacco use in your community, whether that be your school or your city, and what type of prevention project your community really needs to address that problem. So the presentation is going to be broken out in 2 parts. The first part is a presentation, and we're going to cover these learning objectives, which you see on the screen. And the presentation should last about 45 minutes to an hour. And then we are going to break you up into breakout groups so you can start your own needs assessment. And this is something that's going to take you longer than just today. You can get started today and then go back to your community and finish it up with a group of peers or community members. But we just want to give you a sense of what this is like. Okay, so we're going to start off with prevention science. So say you want to prevent vaping in your school. How do you do that? Well, prevention science says that in order to prevent a problem, you must address the predictors, and that's just kind of like the root causes. So you have to figure out what's really causing the problem and then address those things. So I have a question for you all. In the chat box, I want you to write down a few things that you think are driving the tobacco use problem in your school. Why do you think students at your school are vaping? Put that in the chat box.
So Kaylee, we have peer pressure.
Okay.
People don't know the harmful effects. Flavors, they seem cool, yeah.
Yeah, so those are all really great theories. And later in the presentation, we're going to collect some data to confirm your theories, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm going to show you a video that talks a little bit more about prevention science and how you actually prevent different health and behavior problems, including tobacco use. Let me pull up the video.
We've had a sea change in prevention in the last 35 years due to something called prevention science. Serious efforts at prevention science began with heart and lung disease. Heart and lung disease is responsible for 1 out of every 3 deaths of people in the United States. But did you know that since 1999, we've had a 32% reduction in the relative risk of death due to heart and lung disease? How did that happen? Well, some of it's due to better treatment, but also because people became concerned with preventing heart disease before it happened. The doctors realized that if you want to prevent a problem before it happens, you need to address and reduce the predictors of that problem. So we need to reduce factors that increase the likelihood of problems. We call these risk factors. We need to increase the factors that have been shown to buffer against or protect against the development of problems like heart and lung disease. We call these protective factors. Today, if we were talking about heart and lung disease, you'd know what those risk factors are. What are they? Well, smoking, a diet high in fat, sedentary lifestyle, family history of heart and lung disease. Once we began to understand these risk factors, we began to change policies and behaviors to reduce them. Today, if you're meeting in a public place, I'll bet nobody is smoking in the room where you're meeting. 35 years ago, there would have been ashtrays on the table. And today in America, if you don't exercise, at least you feel guilty. The exciting thing is that now prevention scientists have been able to apply prevention science to the prevention of adolescent health and behavior problems. Problems like violence, substance abuse, delinquency, teen pregnancy, school dropout, even depression and anxiety. Prevention scientists have identified risk factors that increase the risk of these health and behavior problems in young people and protective factors that buffer against the development of those behavior problems. Moreover, prevention scientists have developed and tested prevention programs and policies that reduce risk and enhance protection and prevent health and behavior problems. In America today, there are over 40 tested and effective prevention programs for preventing adolescent problem behaviors. Communities that care will help your community identify those risk factors that are most widespread in your community and affecting the most young people, and choose tested and effective programs to implement within your community that address those elevated risks in your community, as well as enhance protection. What are examples? Parenting programs that help strengthen family bonding and communicate clear standards for their children's behavior. Curricula in schools that help young people develop life skills. Policies that help reduce availability and access of tobacco and alcohol for young people. I've seen communities using communities of care across this country make big changes. They've reduced risk and enhanced protection. And they've seen measurable improvements in the health and safety of their young people.
Cool. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, so that video talks about communities that care. Just ignore that part. It's just a process for conducting a community needs assessment, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay. All right, Jess, before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. So, Jess, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear
Cool.
someone's
All right.
volume. Let me see if I can
So
mute them.
let's just dive right in. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar.
What is
My
happening?
name's Kaylee, and I'm here
Hold on
today
one
with my
second.
boss, our labs program director, Jess. And just for some background a little bit,
What just
Mute all.
happened? Everyone is muted, so I don't know what that.
I'm not sure. Let's stop.
Maybe someone who had their audio on maybe has a tab open that was playing audio if the computer's still sharing sound.
I think
I
it
don't
was a YouTube video that started playing again.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So glad we figured that out. Thanks for bearing with me. Let me try to share my screen again. So like I was mentioning, that video that you saw talked a little bit about communities that care. Just go ahead and ignore that part. It's a process of conducting a needs assessment, which we'll talk about more. But the video did mention risk and protective factors. So I'm wondering if you guys have ever heard of those terms before. So if you've ever heard of a risk or protective factor, I want you to give a thumbs up on the Zoom. Oh, 1, 2, a couple of people. Okay, so it sounds like this is a pretty new term for everyone. So let's go over it again. So risk factors increase the likelihood of someone starting or continuing to use tobacco. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a few examples of this. So people are more likely to use tobacco if they see tobacco use in the media. So that could be tobacco use in the movies or on TV shows or even on social media. Another risk factor is tobacco advertising. So if someone's out and about in their community and they see billboards advertising vape products, or if they go to a gas station and see signs for Juul or a cigarette company, they're more likely to use tobacco products. Another risk factor is easy access to tobacco products. So if it's easy to get, youth are more likely to use it. They could be getting it from older friends, maybe a family member, or they could be going to a store that's not checking IDs and getting it that way. Another risk factor is peer use of tobacco products. So if youth see their friends at school using tobacco, or they're smoking or vaping, they're more likely to do it. And the last one is low risk perception, which means that people just don't think it's dangerous. So those are 5 tobacco-related risk factors. And if those are present, youth are more likely to start using tobacco or continue to use tobacco. So if you want to prevent a problem, you want to reduce these risk factors to make sure that they're not present in your community. If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. On your video, cool, couple thumbs up, awesome. So I'm going to go through an example. On the left side of this screen, you'll see that they're talking about the risk factor exposure to smoking in the movies. And it says, exposure to smoking in the movies causes young people to start smoking. We know that, we just talked about that, right? The middle column talks about this is a big problem because there has been an increase of tobacco use in PG-13 movies from 2010 to 2018. And in 2018, 1/3 of youth-rated movies showed tobacco use. So we know it's a big problem. In order to prevent tobacco use in this case, you want to reduce that risk factor. How do you do that? Well, movie studios, producers, and directors can keep tobacco out of their movies, their youth-rated movies. And actually, a few studios and producers did make that decision. So let's see, Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, Fox are just a few that have a policy addressing tobacco use in their movies. So you see that that risk factor was prevalent and they implemented some type of prevention strategy to reduce that risk factor. Now we're going to move on to protective factors. So protective factors buffer against risk. They decrease the likelihood of someone starting or continuing to use tobacco. And at the bottom of this screen, there's a few examples. So if youth feel connected to their school, like they think that their peers and their teachers truly care about them and care about their learning, they're less likely to use tobacco. Or if they have a connection with a knowledgeable and trusted adult. So if they have maybe an older cousin or a parent, maybe a coach that they can go to and really have serious, honest conversations, that protects against the risk. And the third one is knowledge about the harm and detrimental effects of tobacco. If youth know that vaping and cigarettes are a real dangerous problem, they're going to be less likely to use it. So in order to prevent problems, remember how we said we want to reduce risk, but we also want to increase this protection. Give me a thumbs up again if that makes sense. All right, lots of thumbs up. Great. So now we're going to get into the community needs assessment. We know how to prevent problems, right? So a community needs assessment is a process of identifying and addressing conditions and predictors of tobacco use in a community. That's kind of confusing, I know. What it really means is that a community needs assessment is a process of doing research on your community. So you can understand what is the tobacco problem, And what is causing it? Are there risk factors in the community? Are there protective factors? What's going on? And once you have that information, you can make very informed decisions about what prevention projects you guys need to do in order to prevent it. So I have another poll question for you. Let me launch it. Okay, so it says blank of Texas middle school and high school students think it is easy or very easy to obtain tobacco products in their community. Give you a few more seconds to make your choices. A couple of people still need to cast a vote. All right. So you guys thought that 54% of Texas middle and high school students think it's easy or very easy to obtain tobacco products in their community. You guys are close, but the actual answer is 46%. And the reason why I wanted to do that poll with you is to show that sometimes your perceptions of what's going on in your community may not be completely accurate. And you may need to do a little bit more research to make sure you actually understand what's going on. Let's see. So a community needs assessment will help you create a community agreement about the problem. You're going to collect data. Everyone's going to agree this is a tobacco problem. It'll help you identify the predictors that contribute to the problem. Remember, we talked about risk and protective factors. It'll help you figure out what's going on with those. And 3, it'll help you make informed decisions about the strategies that you should implement to reduce the problem. So in a community needs assessment, there's 5 steps. And if you haven't listened to me this entire presentation, start listening now because I'm going to give you the exact steps that you need to do this needs assessment. And you're going to be asked to do it actually too. So the first step is to define your community. A community is a group of people living within the same geographic location or having a characteristic in common. So for this project, we want you to define your community, and you can either select your city, county, school campus, or school district. Just select one. I think in the mail you got some worksheets. And there's some worksheets that go along with this presentation. And on the first page, it'll ask you for this project to select your community. So if you want to go to your worksheet right now and jot down what you want to focus on, either your city, county, school campus, or school district, know that you can change that later, but just jot something down right now. Okay, so these are the questions that you're going to ask in your needs assessment. The first question is all about the tobacco problem. So you want to describe the tobacco use problem in your community. First question, overall, what percentage of youth are using tobacco products? Second question, what type of tobacco products are they using? Are they using cigarettes, vapes, chewing tobacco? What's going on? And the third question is, who are these problems affecting most? So is it males that are smoking or vaping more? Is it females? Is there a certain racial group? The second key question is, describe the predictors of the tobacco use problem. So what are the tobacco-related risk factors in your community? And what are the tobacco-related protective factors in your community? So those are a lot of questions. Does anyone know where to find the information to answer these questions? If you have any idea, write it in the chat box. Where do you find information to answer these questions?
Online, Google.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? Surveys? Yep, you're close. Ask your community. You guys are so smart. Yes. Okay, so all of these are correct answers. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So there are two ways to collect information to answer these questions. The first is you're going to use existing data. Has anyone ever heard of the Texas Youth Tobacco Survey? If you've ever heard of that, give me a thumbs up. Looks like no one's heard of that. That's okay. So it's actually a survey that is conducted in Texas middle and high schools every other year. So students fill out a survey all about tobacco, if they're using tobacco, different risk factors, things like that. And the good news is we have all the data to share with you. And some of the data, the results of that survey, can help you answer these questions. And we'll talk a little bit about that more in a second. The second way to get information to answer these questions is to collect your own data. So if the answers that you're looking for aren't in the survey results, you can collect your own data. Maybe you want to take pictures of the community, maybe you want to conduct a survey with your peers, or maybe do interviews, right? So use existing data or collect your own. So if everyone could get out their worksheet that you got in the mail for this session, I'll actually pull it up too. Okay, so it looks like this. So remember I had you define your community? This is part 1. You go down, and part 2 is answer your key questions. Just skip this part right now. It has an area for you to fill in the answers, but we don't know the answers yet. We have to collect the data. So you go down to these tables. This is a tool for you to compile data. So there's 3 tables. The first one is all about the first question, the tobacco-related problem in your community. The very first column, you're going to see all the questions, like overall, what percentage of youth are using tobacco products? The good news is that data is in the Texas Youth Tobacco Survey on page 3. And if you want to access the report, the link is right here. And it looks like this. You're going to find the 2018 Youth Tobacco Survey and hit download. And it brings you to this. So on this, it said, blank of Texas youth are using a tobacco product in the past month. What you have to do is go to the report and find the answer to fill in the blank. And it says it's on page 3. See that right here? Page 3. So what you have to do is go to the report and scroll down. Page 1, 2. Pages are on the very bottom. Page 3. And you want to know overall how many people are using tobacco. So the answer is the past month. In the past month, 17.2% of people used any tobacco product. So you take that 17.2% 17.2%, and plug it in right here. So you have all the information you need to answer that question. Now, sometimes that information won't be enough, and you'll need to collect additional data. And you can brainstorm the ways that you would collect data right here. So if you scroll down to the second table, it gives you some examples. So this is the risk factor table. And the first risk factor you're collecting data about is tobacco use in the media. It has something that you can pull from the reports, but then there's some additional data that you can collect. For example, you can take pictures of tobacco use in popular TV shows and movies or on social media. Take a screenshot or a picture of whatever. So you had that data. All right. Does that make sense to everyone? If you have a question, put it in the chat box, and if it makes sense, just put a thumbs up on Zoom. One thumbs up. Cool. This will make sense in a little bit when we're asked to do this in your breakout session. But let's keep going with the next steps. Okay, so you collected all the data about the tobacco problem and the risk factors and the protective factors. It's a lot of data you need to comb through. But the next step is to make some really big decisions about what you want to do in your community. So you have to prioritize the risk and protective factors that you want to focus on. And you're just going to be asked to pick one or two at the very most. And the reason is because there are limited resources. So it's impossible to address every single risk and protective factor that's going on in your community because there's not enough time, there's not enough people, there's not enough money. So you just have to make some serious decisions about which one you want to focus on right now, and you could always focus on more in the future. In order to make that decision, you're going to have a group discussion with the people in your community. So you might want to get a group together of other Say What members in your school, other people that aren't in the Say What group that are interested in making a decision, and other decision makers. And you're going to have a group discussion about the problem and the risk factors to figure out which ones that you should prioritize. Does anyone know what types of questions that you can ask that group to make a decision? It's kind of a hard question. Put in the chat box if you have any idea. So you bring this group together. What type of questions do you ask in order to make a decision? Oh, hold on, looks like it's blurry for you guys.
It looks fine, Kaylee.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you the answer. You get this group together, and you're going to have a discussion about these three things. One, what is the size of the problem? So you're going to look at all your data. Which is the biggest problem? Which risk factor is the biggest problem? Which is the most widespread? The second thing you're going to ask is, what are the available resources? Is there enough time to address this risk factor? Are there different prevention projects that we can work on to address this risk factor? And the third thing is community readiness. Does your community even care about this risk factor? Do they want to address it? So those are the three things that you need to ask and talk about in your group. And once you have that discussion, you can figure out which one or two risk and protective factors you want to focus on. It's also important to note that it's going to be very difficult to come to a decision because everyone has different perspectives. So your decision just has to be one that everyone can accept. Not everyone's going to be on board 100%, but everyone just has to be accepting of the decision. Step 4. Now, once you've selected your risk and protective factor that you want to focus on, you need to find the strategies to either reduce the risk factor or increase that protective factor. And there's a lot of resources that you can use to identify different prevention strategies or prevention projects. And I listed a few of these. You have the links on your worksheet. So one is the community guide, counter tobacco, any of the Surgeon General reports, CDC, Texas Department of State Health Services, and Say What. So those are some links that you can go to. Just browse around to see if there's any strategies that you can use to address the risk factor. So let me give you an example. This is also in your worksheet. Say your group decided that you want to address the availability of tobacco products in your community. You know this is a huge problem and you want to do something about it. Well, on the right, there's different strategies that you can do to reduce that risk factor. One is to enforce existing policies. Have you guys heard of Tobacco 21 before? Give me a thumbs up if you have. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it in this conference. Right, so that is a policy that is aimed to address the access of tobacco products. So you could raise awareness of this policy with the stores in your community. Go around to the stores and make sure that they're aware of this and that they can't sell tobacco products to anyone under the age of 21. Another example strategy is support policies to increase the price of tobacco products. So that's usually done through a tobacco tax. I want to make sure that you guys know that there's different prevention strategies that you can implement. Some are education-based, so you can raise awareness of things through presentations or one-on-one conversations. Or there's strategies to implement policies. So education-based strategies are easier to implement, right? Because all you have to do is a PowerPoint presentation to a group. And that's a really great place to start to raise awareness. The problem is, it just takes a lot of work on your end because you have to do a lot of presentations to reach everyone in the community. Now, policies reach everyone in the community, but it takes a lot of time to implement that, right? It takes a lot of time, you need a lot of support. So just keep that in mind. And once you've selected a strategy, you need to make a plan. So think about who needs to be involved, what are the strategies that you need to implement, and what's the timeline. So those are the 5 steps you need to take to do a needs assessment. I understand that is a ton of information. That's why you have those worksheets that will take you step by step and teach you how to do this needs assessment. So in a moment, I'm going to break you out into groups and you can try it on your own. But before we do that, I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. Anyone have any questions about this community needs assessment? You can put it in the chat or you can just show your video and speak up and ask a question. Great. So it doesn't look like there's any questions.
Haley,
Yeah.
I have a question actually for the teen ambassador. So since y'all are actively doing this work and you've been doing this work for quite a while, how do you see a needs assessment as something that's useful for you as someone who's more seasoned or experienced in tobacco prevention and control work as a youth advocate? And so what do you think, how do you think you can take this and adapt it into what you've already been doing? Or if anyone else on the chat that wants to add in other than the TAs.
Let's see if we can
See
unmute
that.
you guys.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a needs assessment would be a really great thing to do, not just once, but every once in a while to do it and reevaluate what your community really needs and say, oh, well, if I've already addressed this one problem, maybe I need to do another needs assessment to see what problem that I need to address next.
It's a really great point. This is
Everyone
something that
should be
you
able to unmute now, by the way.
Has anyone ever done a needs assessment before or anything like it? Has anyone collected data about their community?
I do something similar where I go to like the tobacco shops and try to purchase it, and the state does the survey for me. Like I go with a police officer. So that's how I do the surveys in my community.
Mm-hmm. So you help collect the data?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else done anything like this before? That's okay, because you're going to get a chance to. What we're going to do is break you out into groups of maybe 3 or 4. And what we want you to do is to go through your worksheets and go through step 1. So first, define what your community is for this project. And you can talk about what each person is going to pick. Next, you can start compiling data. So remember how I showed you, you could fill in the blank to get information from the Texas Tobacco Survey? So you and your group can practice doing that together. You don't have to do all of it right now, but just get an idea of how to do it. And then there's that last column about how you can brainstorm ways to collect additional data. Think about ways that you're going to go back to your community next week or after this conference. What type of data do you want to collect to measure each risk and protective factor? So we're going to break you up into groups. And we know that a lot of you haven't done this before. So if you have any questions, you can always come back to the main group and ask either Darian and I, and we can help you. And then you can go back to your group. So if everyone's ready to go to a breakout session, give me a thumbs up and we'll send you there. Okay. Oh, I also should mention, you have quite a bit of time to work on this. So we're going to give you until about 4:45, and then we'll come back and debrief. So, and I'll push a button to bring you all back to this main session. Okay, hold on. Let me find a way to get you into breakout rooms.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. Well, I'm Sydney. I'm excited to be in this breakout with you guys. I would love for everybody to just say like, hey, and maybe introduce themselves. You know, tell me like, are you a youth member? Like, where you maybe go to school, and like what grade you're going to be in next year, and how long you've been in Say What.
I guess I can start. I'm Annette. I will be a senior, and I am from Bryan, Texas. So I'm with BCOT, and I just recently joined. But it's been a pretty great experience, and I'm hoping to keep going throughout this next school year.
Awesome. Who's next? Anybody? Janae? Is that who that is? I can't hear you, no, unfortunately. You can feel free to type it in the chat box if you're having problems with your audio. Okay, this is Janae. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize. She's a member of Young Ladies of Elegance. And that may be all, but hey, Janae, welcome. Glad to have you. Oh, she's going to be a freshman next year, high school. That's exciting. Glad to have you here, Janae. Brianna. Maybe.
Oh my god. Okay, hey, sorry. It's because I'm like trying to show my face, but I didn't brush my hair. So I was getting
you're good.
That's what I'm doing right now. So do we want to start this right now? Or
yeah, if you want to just introduce yourself to everybody.
Oh, okay. So well, I don't know where the other two people are. Wait, are they in the chat right now? The other two people?
Annette and Janae?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're in this breakout room.
Oh, okay. So I'm Brianna Castro, and I'm from Diboll, Texas. And it's near Lufkin, if you don't know where that's at.
Okay, awesome. And I see Irma just joined us. Irma, do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, or just kind of saying where we're from, what grade we're going to be in, that kind of thing?
Hello, everybody. My name's Irma. I'm one of the TAs. I'm going to be a freshman in college next year at Texas A&M. Okay. Oh, and I'm from Houston. Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to have you with us, Irma. Okay, guys, so now we're just going to kind of work through a couple of those pages in our workbook that Kaylee was talking about. So if you guys
have your notebooks, go ahead and open those on up to the What Does My Community Need section. And if you don't have a book, you can access that through the PDF on our website. And I'll go ahead and put that into the chat right now in case you do need to do that. All right. So this first page that we have, we're talking about defining our community as one of the first steps in our need assessment. So for you guys, what would your community be? Or what do you think you'd want your community be to look at? So this could be your city, your county, maybe your school district.
Houston.
Houston, okay, so Irma says Houston, like the whole city. I love it.
I think for, I guess if I were to do it by myself, it would be my school. But since I'm with VCOD, I think we're trying to focus more on our county. So that would be Brazos County as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so like, Annette was saying, there could be a couple different possibilities. But remember, we do want to be thinking about this in the context of doing this with our, youth group, with other Say What members. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. It'd probably be actually really, really hard if we tried to do this alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. I love Brazos County. I see that Janae put in the comments Houston. So maybe you and Irma could team up, take on Houston there. I love that. I think for me, I could do my city. I live in New Braunfels, so just right outside of San Antonio, and it's a little bit smaller than San Antonio. So I think that could be a good one. All right, so now that we've defined our community, a couple things we want to do is answer some key questions. So this is on the next page. So this says the next steps involve identifying the conditions and predictors of tobacco use in your community. So really collecting that data. So describe the tobacco use problem in your community. So it says overall, what percentage of youth are using tobacco products? So just like based on what you guys see, maybe what you've heard, what would you say? Like what percentage of youth do you think are using tobacco in your community? Okay, Irma says like 30%.
I would say like less than like 50, like around 30-ish.
Okay, yeah. Less than 50, maybe around that 30 mark.
Maybe around 40, to be honest. I've seen a lot of middle schoolers start using, and it's worrisome, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, the younger kids getting maybe into smoking, vaping, tobacco use at a younger age. That is definitely something to be concerned about, and that definitely maybe has increased the numbers. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Also, maybe like what products do you see them using? Like what are the ones that maybe are the most popular?
Probably now the puff bars too.
Puff bars, Juul, yeah. So like a lot of maybe vaping is the more popular way of using tobacco.
Yeah, vaping for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You only see a couple of people use traditional cigarettes, and that's probably like the older high schoolers or maybe college students.
Yeah. Yeah, vaping does seem to be the popular method amongst youth. Any others? All right. Well, yeah, those were great responses, guys. The next thing, or the thing I want to do now is tell you like actually what some of those numbers are. So I have pulled up a website that I'm actually going to type in the chat, which has the statistics for the state of Texas. So these won't be necessarily the exact same as maybe what's happening in your community, but could give you a good idea. That is, okay. Sorry, I'm typing the link in here. So that link there will take you to kind of a viewprint of what the total of tobacco is here in Texas. And this was updated in January. So this has some pretty accurate numbers, pretty recent numbers. Irma, would you mind pulling up that link and telling us what some of those numbers are?
So high school smoking rate in the whole US in 2019 was 5.8%. The adults who die each year from their own smoking is 28,000. And kids now 18 and alive in Texas who will ultimately die prematurely from smoking is 498,000. There's 26.9% is the proportion of cancer deaths in Texas attributable to smoking, and high school students who smoke in Texas is 11.3%.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Irma, for reading that for us. So like she said, the high school students who are using e-cigarettes are definitely a lot more than those maybe using other products. So we see that high school students who smoke is 11.3%, but high school students who use e-cigarettes is 27.5%. So a lot of those teenagers who are choosing to smoke are doing so through vape. So you guys were right that is definitely the most popular mode. So in your book, if you want to write like overall, what percentage of youth are using tobacco products? For Texas, that's going to be 11.3%. And so you can assume that that's probably pretty accurate to your county, your city, your school. So that's quite a few, guys. This says, I think Irma read this one, but kids under 18 who become new daily smokers each year is 8,700. So that's a lot. Okay, so the B part in our workbook, which says what type of tobacco products are they using, we can, say that they're probably using e-cigarettes, vapes. Like Annette said, maybe you do see some people using regular cigarettes or chewing tobacco, things like that. And then who are these products or who are these problems affecting most? Who do you guys think that they're affecting the most? Jay says teenagers. Absolutely. Do y'all agree that it's teenagers maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. Net says yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's why we're here, right? We're here because we don't want to see our friends and our peers get hooked on these dangerous products. So, we have seen the youth vaping epidemic explode, and we want to put a stop to that. So absolutely. Okay, so next is describe the predictors of the tobacco use problem in the community. So what are the tobacco-related risk factors in the community? So what might increase somebody's use of tobacco products? Think about it that way. Irma says social media. Yeah, absolutely. How many
Peer
of you
pressure.
have peer pressure?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're great. You're great. How many of you guys have seen somebody on Instagram maybe that you follow or on a different social media page like promote tobacco products? Can like raise your hand with the reactions? Like give a thumbs up, a clap, or me. Janae says me. Irma, thumbs up, yeah. Janae, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy that people are out there promoting it. Annette said peer pressure. Absolutely. Even though you guys are here at the Say What conference and you're part of this incredible organization and surround yourself with people who encourage you not to do that and to live the life and be healthy and, you know, nicotine, tobacco free, that's not true for everybody. Sometimes those people that they surround them with maybe are encouraging to use it. And peer pressure, it takes a toll on us, even those who are in this great group. That can definitely be hard. Any other risk factors maybe that might increase somebody's desire to use these products?
Like how easy it is to access them and stuff, like stores, or like getting them from other people who like, you know, have connections.
Yeah,
Like
access. Irma actually has worked on doing like some undercover stings and things like that. Would you want to just talk about what you've maybe seen when you've done that, Irma?
So I usually go with a police officer and they help me with trying to buy a tobacco product, but I'm not allowed to carry my ID because you're not supposed to lie. So that way I can just tell them that I don't have my ID. And when I usually go there, I ask for a pack of cigarettes and they'll like give it to me. And then after they give it to me, they'll be like, "Can I see your ID?" And then that's when they realize that if I don't have my ID, they can't get the product. That's usually what happens.
Awesome. Hi, I see that we have a few new faces in the breakout room. Welcome. Glad you guys could join us. Hi, I'm Sydney.
PBJ here.
Lauren.
Hi. So right now we are actually just kind of working through the project planning pages in the notebook, the conference notebook, under the What Does My Community Need section. If you guys don't have a notebook, it looks like you both do though. We do have a PDF version available on our website. Perfect. So we had talked about, just give you guys a brief recap. We talked about, you know, defining our community because we're working on planning that needs assessment. So a couple people said, you know, Houston, their city. A couple people said their county, so like Brazos County. Some people even said, you know, maybe their school, they want to just start there and then work their way out. And then we talked about describing the tobacco use problem in our community. So overall, what percentage of youth are using tobacco? A lot of us said, you know, 30% maybe, or 40% because we're starting to see middle schoolers using that. But then we looked at the toll on Texas tobacco, and we saw that 11.3% of high school students currently are using tobacco. So that's kind of where we're at. And right now we're talking about the risk factors in our community. So, you know, what might encourage somebody or increase their likelihood to use tobacco. And we've had some great answers. So things like social media, peer pressure. Irma was just telling us about, she actually, as part of her youth group, she's done like undercover stings to see if people will like sell her tobacco. And so access to tobacco, you know, can they get it even if you're underage, or can you have an older friend maybe buy it for you? I also see here in the chat we have flavors. Absolutely. Do y'all agree with that flavors maybe increase the risk for somebody to use tobacco? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of agreement on that. I absolutely agree. I mean, I think that's kind of why legislation has maybe tried to combat that and kind of get rid of the flavors, because they know that's how the youth are getting hooked, because of these fun flavors. Those are all great answers. So feel free to write those down in those related risk factors. And then next I want to talk about what are the protective factors. So what might encourage somebody or increase their likelihood to not use tobacco? Feel free to type them in the chat, turn your mic on and answer. I would love to hear from as many people as possible.
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to know, what are some of the tobacco-related protective factors in your community? So what might protect somebody or keep them from using tobacco?
So I'd have to say for sure, like a lot of places have, they're smoke-free.
Yeah.
The city of Fort Worth has a smoke-free ordinance in most of their restaurants and parks and bars. And then, you know, the initiative with, you know, not allowing tobacco, drugs, or firearms on school campuses, that's a big one.
Yeah, those are both incredible. Those are great. Absolutely, that, you know, no smoking ordinances, not being able to have tobacco products on school grounds. I see that Irma put age restrictions. So like tobacco 21, that was a big win for that, of hopefully maybe protecting younger individuals from gaining access to tobacco.
That was huge. I'm so glad they finally did that.
Yeah, that was a big win, big win. Taxes, yeah, trying to make it, you know, too expensive maybe to give into that.
I think being educated on the harmful effects of tobacco is also a great way to prevent youth from using it.
Absolutely, Annette, absolutely. What are some ways that you think, you know, youth your age can educate themselves on the harmful effects of tobacco?
I think, well, for the most part, my school uses a weekly kind of like each classroom each week gets to view this video of like our school news and stuff, and our BCOT always adds in their own little informational like session, kind of trying to make sure people are aware of the harmful effects.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, like also this conference that you guys are at right now, like this is a great way to educate yourselves and, you know, continue to increase your knowledge of what's going on and those harmful effects. Like Dr. Denoble's speech earlier today, that was a great way that we could educate ourselves. Any other maybe protective factors that you guys can think of? We have daily video announcements during lunch. We have a PSA on the harmful effects. Yeah, that's great. Like especially in schools, you know, that's where the youth are during the day, we hope. But they're at school, and so being able to reach them where they're at with the PSAs, I think that's great. Irma, yeah, so sometimes maybe the advertisements on TV or on our streaming services show those harmful effects. There's definitely been a lot of campaigns put out in the last, you know, 10 years, like from the Truth Initiative and things like that, to help educate youth on, hey, that's what they're telling you is a lie. Here's what is actually happening when you vape every day and when you smoke. Those are all great answers. So if you want to write some of those down in your book, that is perfect. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next part is collecting and compiling data So this is something you would go out and do in your community. So when you get with your youth group or with your friends or other Say What members, you can go out into your community and actually collect this data. But like we here also, like you can see that some of these have given you places where you can find that data. So maybe the blank percent of Texas youth have used a tobacco product in the past month. And then it says the 2018 YTS report, page 3. So if you wanted to go look at that report that is available on the DSHS website, you could find that number and fill it in. So you don't always have to collect the data firsthand. Sometimes people have already done that for you and you can find it on the internet. But you can also do that in your community and ask your community members those questions, like, you know, how many, like the ones that we've asked here today, how many people do you think maybe use tobacco, or what's the most popular tobacco product you see, to really get an understanding of what is actually happening in my community. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that website and it'll take me to the report. Oh, because I have it pulled up on my computer here. And we can look at some of these numbers. Okay. Let's see. So give me one. Okay, any tobacco products. So the first question there says, blank percent of Texas youth have used a tobacco product in the past month. What do you guys think the answer to that is? It could be like any tobacco product in the last month. How many do you think have done that? Go ahead and type that in the chat. Okay, 15%, 18%. Let's get a couple more. 17.2%. Brianna, are you looking at the same thing that I'm looking at? Because that's correct. Way to go. Yeah, 17.2% of youth have used a tobacco product in the last month. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I agree. That's a lot. Okay, so the most commonly used tobacco products are blank, with blank percent of Texas youth reporting ever using them. So let me know in the chats, what do you guys think? First, what do you guys think is the most used product? I know we kind of already talked about this, but. Juul, e-cigarettes. Yeah, I think you guys might be right. Juul, yeah. So I'm looking for the table. I know that that's correct though. So yeah, here we go. Perfect. So yeah, the most commonly used products are e-cigarettes with 22.8% of students reporting ever using them. So in their lifetime. I know, Lauren, I know.
Wait, how much was it again?
I believe it's 22.8.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, the link to this report is in your guys's notebook that you received. So you can definitely go back and double check these numbers in case I am not reading them correctly. I'm moving back and forth here. So but I think that is the correct number.
Hi, everyone. I'm just crashing for a moment just to make sure that you guys understand the activity, or if you have any questions, I can answer those. Have you guys been able to fill in the blanks on those tables?
Yeah, we've kind of gone through the first couple pages, and now we're looking at the youth tobacco survey data and kind of going through that. So
Awesome. Then I won't bother you guys if you guys understand the activity. If you have any questions, just let me know.
sounds good. All right. Okay, so the least commonly used product. What do you guys think was the least used product by youth? Least used tobacco product, that is. Dip, yeah, so chewing tobacco. Hookahs, it's a good answer. Hookah, I'm seeing another hookah. Let's see. So the, okay, so two things. Actual cigarettes, I see that too, Lauren. Okay, so actually, the correct answer is hookahs. Hookah is the correct answer. Does that surprise anybody? I'm seeing some nods. Yeah, Brianna, that surprises you. That honestly surprised me too. I thought it was going to be like chewing tobacco, like spitless tobacco. I thought that was going to be the correct answer, but it is hookah, with only 5.7% saying they ever tried it. Also, I have a correction on the e-cigarettes. The correct number that have tried it ever was 21.9%. I think I said it a little bit higher than that earlier. I think I finally found the right table. So. When you go into like by age group, that gets a little bit higher for high schoolers than it does middle schoolers, but that is correct. So we see the e-cigarettes are the most common and hookahs are actually the least common. Why do you guys think that might be?
I was thinking maybe it was because, like, from the presentation that I saw yesterday, they smoke it for longer. I think they said it was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, so they don't have to like do it as often.
I thought it was because you gotta share it with like so many people, and like that just would sound disgusting, sharing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially with everything that's going on right now, like nobody wants to be doing that. But yeah, like you sharing it with so many people. I know like a lot of times they have like hookah bars, so like you have to go somewhere to like do it rather than taking it home with you, doing it at home. I think that's probably a lot less common. So that could be. Those are all great answers, guys. So next, we're going to look at, so these are the who are these problems affecting most. So it says tobacco use increases with age. Ooh, Janae has a really good comment. E-cigs are displayed more on TV and other resources than hookah is, plus the sharing part. Yeah, we don't see a lot of advertisements for hookah. We see a lot of advertisements for e-cigarettes. Absolutely. So this says tobacco use increases with age. Blank % of Texas high school students have used tobacco products in the past month, compared to blank % of Texas middle school students. So we talked about high school students earlier, and we said that about 11% of high school students were using tobacco. What do you guys think middle schoolers are? Okay, I see Lauren already got 17 to 10. What do you guys think? 8, 9, 9, yeah. So in the past month, it says 8.3% of middle schoolers have used any tobacco product in the past month. High schoolers, though, guys, this is wild. It says in the past month, 24.8% of high schoolers have used some type of tobacco product. Now, you should know that these numbers are coming from 2018, so they're a little bit out of date. That 11% that we used earlier, where we said 11% of high school students are smoking in the state of Texas, is a little bit more accurate number, but that's also not by in the past month. So just make sure that when you're looking at all these numbers and you're, trying to figure out what the percentages are, you're looking at, when did this come out, what year, things like that. Does anybody have any questions so far? I know that this is a lot of stuff. The middle school again? Yeah, for sure. So for middle school, it says 8.3% used any product in the last month. And when you think about that, some of the middle schoolers, I mean, they might be 10 years old, maybe a 6th grader still. So that's so young to be hooked on nicotine, to be addicted. Okay, let's see. Okay, it says males use tobacco products at a higher rate compared to females. Interesting. Did y'all know that? Give me a thumbs up if you knew that. Shake your head no if you didn't know that. I didn't know that either. I did not know that. But apparently that is true. So in Texas, what percentage of young males have used a tobacco product in the last month? What do you guys think? %, 11%. Any other? How many young men have used tobacco in the last month? The answer is, oh, Brianna, really close, 17. It's actually 18.9. So 20, 17, those are both very, very close. Compared to how many females do you think have used tobacco products in the last month? We know it's less than men. So it's going to be less than 18.9. Mine says 6, 15, Janae says 15. These are all great answers, great answers. It's so hard to know. It's so hard to know. Well, I wish it was 6. It's not. It's actually 15.7. I know. So yes, it looks like males are using it more, but only slightly. Ooh, Irma, that's a really great point. She says it's interesting because females drink more alcohol than males, and males smoke more than females. I think that is a really interesting point. I wonder why that is. I wonder if some of that has to do with like social norms. All right, y'all still with me? Got a couple more here before we head back to our main group. You guys are rocking and rolling through these pages. We're not going to get through all of the workbook during our breakout today, but that's okay because you guys have these books. You have the links to these resources are in your pages, so you should be able to go back and double check all this and fill it in as you continue on your needs assessment journey. Okay, let's see. Next, it says male, okay, we did that. In Texas, blank percent white non-Hispanic youth use tobacco rate. Youth use tobacco rates, which is higher than other racial groups. So, what percentage of non-Hispanic, white non-Hispanic youth do you think use tobacco? 22%, 20, 27, 30. Awesome, awesome answers. It is actually 21.3%. So Lauren and Irma, you guys were real close. 21.3, and that is the largest or the highest racial group to use tobacco products. All right, so that's kind of the end of that table. Did I miss anything in that table? Are we missing any blanks? We get them all. We got them. Awesome. Well, do you guys want to like take a minute to just stretch and clear your head? I'm going to stand up and stretch. I know all these numbers can be a lot sometimes. I'm going to like shake it out. Roll my head around a few times. Shoulder roll. All right. Good job, everybody. Yeah, grab a drink if you need one. Got some sparkling water here. Keep me fueled. All right. So the next part is looking at identifying those risk and protective factors. So we talked about, what might increase somebody's, use of tobacco and what might decrease or like protect somebody from using it. And a lot of that was maybe seeing it on Instagram, having friends who do that. Easy access, absolutely. And if you guys look at these risk factors, that's a lot of what we already said. So just know that you guys are doing it. You guys are doing this correctly. You guys are on top of it. You know this information. So if you were sitting here thinking, man, am I doing this right? Like, can I do a needs assessment? You can. Absolutely, you can. You're already doing it. So we're going to look at tobacco use in the media. It says that blank percent of Texas youth report seeing actors smoking in TV or movies most of the time or some of the time. So raise your hands in the reaction thing if you went to Ella and Kayla's TA breakout session on advertising and marketing techniques for tobacco. Ooh, Annette says she did. I did. If you didn't, no worries. Janae did. So if you went to that session, at the end, yeah, you might have seen, they had a couple of slides on, the advertising and marketing of, tobacco, especially vaping and things like that. But a huge part of that was a video they showed of all these different TV shows that have depicted smoking in their session. I was in there for one round, and people in the Q&A portion were talking about, what are some shows that you have watched that you've seen that. And I was so surprised to hear that this really popular new show on Netflix called Outer Banks depicted vaping like heavily in that show. How many of you have seen this show? Has anybody seen this show? Lauren, you've seen this show? Irma, you haven't? I hadn't either, because I'm okay. Maybe Janae's seen it. Brianna, you haven't seen it. So I've heard a lot about this show. A lot of I have a younger sister. So a lot of my sister's friends and her age group love this show. They think the boys are cute. They're really into it. Binge watched in April, but it didn't really that much. Okay, so maybe it didn't as much as they were making it sound like. To me, it sounded like it showed it a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh. Irma's is The Walking Dead, though. Yeah, a lot of our favorite shows maybe are depicting, smoking or vaping. We don't realize it until we look back and we're like, oh, Annette, Stranger Things, that's one of my favorites. I know, I was so sad to see it. I also feel like the more I know, the more I see it, where I'm always like, wait, there it is. There it is again. It's in everything. So yeah, it happens. It's out there. It's in our favorite shows. Maybe it's our Instagram influencers we follow. It is constantly in front of us. So this says blank % of Texas report seeing actors in TV smoking. What do you guys think? What % of teenagers have reported that they've seen this? Ooh, smoking weed. That's not good either. 85%, 87%. All right, I gotta get to this page here. Let's see. I'm looking for the page. Oh, I think it's at the bottom here. Hold on. I'm getting there, guys. Yeah, okay, here we go. Perfect. So seen actors. Okay, 85, 87, 18. Okay, so we got a lot of different here. So the percentage of people who have seen actors smoking in TV that say most of the time or some of the time is, I gotta do some math here. Hold on. Calculator here. Bear with me, guys. Not a good mental math person. And 71%. 71%. So Annette, 70. Wow. Yeah, you're real close, girl. I feel like smoking was glamorized in the movies during the 70s and 80s a lot. Absolutely, absolutely. When we look back on, shows that maybe took place in older times, so like Stranger Things, or I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Mad Men or know what that is. A lot of those shows took place before before tobacco was really outed for being what it is. So it was glamorized. It was a lot more popular. Absolutely. All right. So now we have tobacco product advertising. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yeah, it's in there. We could sit here all day and name movies and TV shows where we have seen tobacco, which is so sad because I think it would be a lot shorter of a conversation to name shows where we haven't seen it. We'd probably be hard pressed to find a long list of those. Okay, so this says blank % of Texas youth report seeing advertisements for tobacco on the internet, some of the time or most of the time. So on the internet, so maybe you're on YouTube, maybe you're, just on Google and you're searching things, maybe a Facebook ad. What percentage of youth report seeing that some of the time or most of the time? Yeah, so it has maybe started to decline because you can't, you can't have specific advertising anymore. It's kind of more regulated, which is great, but some of them still get out there. They still get through the cracks. Okay, so we say 40, 75, 38, 66. Okay, we're all across the board here. Let us see. So on the internet, let me pull out my calculator here. Most of the time, or some of the time, we have 39.9% of Texas youth reported seeing that either some of the time or most of the time. So that's a lot less than we see in TV shows and movies. And I think a lot of that is because of what Lauren said, because it is more regulated now. They can't have, certain advertising anymore, but it's still out there. People are still seeing it. Okay, so we only have about 5 minutes left before we need to go back to our main session. So I think we'll go ahead and we'll just do this last one here in tobacco product advertising. It says, blank % of Texas youth report seeing advertisements for tobacco at the gas station or convenience store, either sometimes or a lot. What do y'all think? 45. 75, 38, 86. So these are some bigger numbers. I wonder if that's accurate. I feel like it would be a lot. Oh, y'all, it's about to be a lot. Hold on. All right. We said at gas stations or convenience stores, .6% of Texas youth say that they see advertising at convenience stores or gas stations sometimes or a lot. That's a huge number. Would you guys agree with that? Do you think that's true? Do you think that you see tobacco advertising either sometimes or a lot? Yeah.
Well, since the pandemic, I really don't go in the stores. I kind of like pay at the pump. So I didn't think that there was that much advertising because I really haven't seen it at pay at the pump. So
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's on the glass windows. They'll have like a sign with like a pack of cigarettes and it's like, oh, 2 for like a few bucks or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brianna, the number was, sorry, I think it was 81.6. All discount papers on the windows. Yeah, I mean, I know sometimes even like at the pump, there will be an advertisement that says, 2 jewels or 2 vape pods for this much money. So definitely, it's definitely there. All right, so that's where we're gonna go ahead and stop for today. We got through a lot in your book, so give yourself a little pat on the back for that. And remember, you guys can keep filling that out. You can do this type of needs assessment and data collection with your youth groups, with your community, with your friends, things like that. I would love for one person, preferably maybe a youth member, to report out when we go back into our main group of just telling them, maybe what you learned, something that was interesting from this breakout. Do I have a volunteer for that? Don't be shy. Oh, Brianna, thank you. Appreciate it. So when we go back, if they ask for people to share, you'll go ahead and share for our group. Yay, Brianna. Wait, hold on. Round of applause. We appreciate you. Okay, so if you guys want to go ahead and click leave room, it should direct you back to our main breakout session. And yes, we are Zoom room 2. I'll see you guys in a minute.
It's bad.
Cool. Welcome back, everyone. Darian, do you want to pull everyone else back?
Yeah, I gave an alert that I would pull everyone at 4:45. So I'm just gonna wait a few more seconds.
Makes sense.
Oh my gosh. So I did the closeout at 4:45, and then now it's having a minute timer. So I have to wait another minute.
Okay. Looks like everyone's coming back though. We're gonna wait a few more seconds for everyone to come back. Okay, I think that's everyone. So I'm not sure if you saw Darian's message, but in these last 15 minutes, we kind of just want to do a report out. So if one person from each group can tell us what the experience was like in one interesting thing that they learned. And it would be helpful if you turned on your video so everyone could see you, but I understand that some people may not feel comfortable. So would anyone like to go first? Vivian?
So this experience was actually pretty fun and like interesting because starting it, I didn't expect the results that we ended up selling. So like one of the things that we noticed is that there's a pretty big amount of students that didn't know that cigarettes were bad, even though like a lot of us would think that cigarettes are bad because we're often taught about it, but then we remember that middle schoolers were also a part of it, a part of the survey. So some of them probably grew in a time where they didn't like really talk about cigarette harm. That was actually pretty interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, and then we came up with a lot of projects, or a lot of ways to do projects online to help bring education to students about cigarettes and the harm about it.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys were very busy and accomplished a lot in your group. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Cool.
In our group, we were talking about risk factors, and we were talking about like how some of it could be like peer pressure, and the big one for me was the access, because like where I'm from, like it looks easy to like get it, because especially not just by the stores, but like by like older people, like if you have connections or something like that. So we brought that up in our thing. So yeah.
That's great. Were you able to make a lot of progress in collecting data from that youth tobacco survey?
Yes, ma'am. We got to where did we get to? We got to the risk factors of tobacco product advertising. And
Awesome.
we're talking about how it's kind of sad that we can't really say like how many shows don't have like a cigarette in them, but it can be like an endless conversation for like the ones that do, and it's especially like our favorite ones.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think there was one other group, maybe 2 more groups.
I'll go next.
Cool.
Yeah. So I want to start off by thanking you for helping us get out of our comfort zone, because like, we were all shy and it was like really difficult to start the conversation. But we're actually able to finish collecting the data from the tables, and we were also able to interact with each other and learn more about our different plans and perspectives on this situation and how we could probably contribute to during this time with the COVID situation. And so yeah, it was a great experience.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Does anyone else want to share about the experience or any other comments that you have? I think you might be on mute if you're trying to speak.
There you go, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We can hear you.
I just wanted to say that this experience was really great, and it was very eye-opening because there was a lot of information that I myself didn't know, and this will truly help Julian and me, since we are in the same community, help out our community. And something that surprised me was how strongly they try to advertise tobacco, especially like to the younger audiences. They do it in TV shows, and they always try to target the younger audience. And now I know why. And that's my. Sorry, I'm feeling nervous.
No, you did a great job.
But
so true.
This experience was really cool, and this was actually my first year. I believe Julian's as well, and I'm pretty excited to come in many years to come. And I also had a question for you, if that's good.
Yeah, of course.
I was actually wondering how to become a teen ambassador, or is that in a specific school where they do that?
I'm gonna pass it over to Sydney.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually having a teen ambassador info session tonight at, I believe, 6:45. Let me double check for you right now. Yes, 6:45 tonight, and that link is on our main conference webpage. So go ahead and make sure to attend that. And some of the staff members, as well as the teen ambassadors and consultants, will be there to answer questions and to just talk to you about their experience and give you all the info on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll be checking that out for sure.
Yay!
Thank you.
Of course. Anyone else want to share?
I'll share really quickly. I just wanted to say quick shout out to Leo and Vivian. Yeah, no, we were really productive. We had a really good, really good conversations the whole entire time. They were very interactive. We got a lot of stuff done. We were very productive and talked about our own communities, and also got to network with each other and kind of understand that what's happening in our area isn't only happening in our area, but other schools across Texas. So I just thought that was really important to mention.
It's very true. Well, great. I will say that I popped into each breakout session, and I was impressed with every single one of you, because you took that activity and made a ton of progress with collecting data from that youth tobacco survey and brainstorming ways that you can collect additional data. And I also want to reiterate that this is actually a pretty long process. So even though you accomplished a lot today, there may be still more that you have to do once you go back to your community and you work with your Say What group or any other people in your school. So I just want to encourage you to continue. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Say What or Darian or I, and we can help you along the way. So I want to say you guys did such a great job. And Darian and I had a really good experience presenting this presentation to you all. Darian, did you want to say anything?
No, I think you definitely covered it. Thank you all. Please do reach out if you need any of that information from us. That's why we're here.
Great. I think there's a few more minutes. We'll pass it back over to the teen ambassadors.
We really hope you guys enjoyed this project track with learning what your community needs.